$15 million for doing just one movie, Not Bad for a Boy, from a small town in Austria. And back in Austria, Arnold's mother is amazed. She very rarely speaks to the media, but Aurelia Schwarzenegger opened up to Inside Edition. Janet Tamara with our report.
Hasta la vista, baby.
It's hard to imagine the Terminator as a little boy, much less with a mother. But this great hulk of a man was once this little blonde baby who grew up not the child of wealth and privilege, but to a family of very modest means in the tiny Austrian village of Thal.
The people say in the car, oh, look, it's Arnold's mother.
Arnold's mother, Aurelia Schwarzenegger, rarely grants interviews and still lives in Graz, Austria, 4 miles from where Arnold grew up. He always knew as a young child what he wanted to become. He told me when he was 12 years old, "Mom, I'm going to be the greatest one day."
Did you believe him when he said, "I'm going to grow up to be the greatest"?
I used to think, well, my son is crazy.
Right over the hill behind me is the house where Arnold Schwarzenegger grew up. And this lake, called the Thalazee, or the Lake of Thal, has special meaning for him. Not only because this is where he eventually proposed to Maria Shriver in 1986, but because on a warm summer day in 1960, 15-year-old Arnold met a man who would change his life.
He was Kurt Marnow, a 32-year-old bodybuilder who'd just been crowned Mr. Austria.
Das erste Mal Mr. Austria.
I was Mr. Austria, and Arnold came towards me and said to me, "Could you tell me how can I be like you? How can I look like you?"
Marnold told Arnold, like so many other young boys who'd approached him, to come to the gym in Graz called the Union. He didn't really expect to see Arnold there, but the very next day, Arnold had walked the 4 miles to the Union, and Arnold had even bigger dreams than just to look like Marnold.
His first words were, "I'm going to become Mr. Universe."
Did you have faith in him?
To be honest, at that point, not yet.
What made you change your mind?
The Union was always closed on Saturdays and Sundays, and Arnold, with his incredible drive and his thirst for training, couldn't stand the 2 days off. So what did he do? He and a couple of friends broke a window and came in so he could work out.
The owners were so impressed with Arnold's motivation, they made the only exception they've made in 32 years. For Arnold, the gym was open 7 days a week. But Arnold's parents didn't approve of his obsession, partly because the meat his growing body needed was expensive. Helmut Chernchik, a trainer at the Union, remembers this episode when Arnold was about 16.
He looked like he had been crying, and he would say, "Chernchik, I don't know what I should do. My father, he had his belt in his hand. He said, 'You silly boy, I'll whap you if you don't stop that stupid activity, that bodybuilding. You'll never make money with that.'"
What did you hope Arnold would grow up to be?
A policeman.
But it was not to be. In 1967, Arnold's first big dream came true. He was crowned Mr. Universe in Munich, and his old mentor, Kurt Marnow, was there to shake his hand. But Arnold's dreams were getting too big for Europe.
In Germany, he was the greatest, but not in America. No?
And he wanted to be the greatest in America?
In America, yes.
Because that was the final test?
Yes.
He don't have money. He go to America, he have, I don't know, 10 marks, not more.
It was 1968, and for a while, Arnold had to be satisfied pitching bodybuilding gear and power drinks.
What's your name? Hercules. Greek, huh?
Then in 1969, Arnold made his first movie, Hercules Goes to New York. Originally a drama, some say it was Arnold's first comedy.
A fine chariot, but where are the horses?
Arnold's legendary sense of humor had always been put to good use psyching out his fellow competitors. But in 1973, his humor caught the ear of director George Butler, who made Arnold the star of the documentary Pumping Iron.
I thought, well, okay, if he thinks that he's the best pose, I'm going to pull a little trick on him. And I told him that the new thing is that he has to scream while he's posing. So he went out there, he screamed loud, went through 3 or 4 poses with some loud screaming, and they carried him off the stage.
But one Hollywood exec saw Arnold in Butler's film and
literally threw me out of his office and said, "It's impossible for anyone to believe that this uneducated Austrian with this bad accent will ever be a movie star.
Jesus, you're gonna kill that guy!
Of course, I'm a Terminator.
With the success of Terminators 1 and 2, Schwarzenegger fulfilled one more big dream, to be a big star with a big bank account, commanding a whopping 15 million plus perks per role. But not everybody is a fan of the cyborg killer. His mother has a frank appraisal of Arnold's role as the Terminator.
It's a little bit brutal. It's not so good for women.
Violent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any roles you would like to see him do?
Ja, und zwar bei Kindergarten Cop.
In Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten Cop
Yeah,
Part 2?
Yeah.
Either way, Arnold's movie career is a long way from Tal, a village of 1,200 that doesn't even have a movie theater.
So you shared the house. You had the first floor?
In the first floor.
Aurelia has never forgotten the humble roots Arnold came from.
What did you think when Arnold called you up and told you he was dating one of the Kennedys?
Ich meine,
I thought, we were a simple family, and to marry into such an important family, we were such opposites. But like nearly everything in Arnold's life, his marriage worked out too.
There's two things that made my career. One is the United States, and the other one is sports. Without the sport, I wouldn't be anything, because it was through sports that I wrote my books, that I came to this country, that I did my movies, that I met my wife. Everything was related to sports.
Arnold has never forgotten his old friends at the gym. He visits Tal every few years, and in the meantime, his old friends go to see him at the theater.
He comes a superstar back, and it was the same boy or man, young man, 25, 30 years ago.
Same young man from Tal.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He was the most disciplined person I ever met, and I think in many ways he remains that today. He was the most determined person, and he had come to America with a plan to literally become one of the great stars in this country, and he's done that.
How about today? Are you sorry he didn't become a policeman?
Nein, eigentlich nicht.
I'm terribly proud of him.